I'm going to let Katie Hendricks straight into the room because she's been waiting. Our first keynote speaker. I'm so excited for this conversation. Welcome to the Global Unity Summit, Katie Hendricks.
Hey, hi, Nick. Hold on a second. I'm going to put this on.
Perfect. You have a captive audience, very excited to hear from you.
All right, let me shut the door. I've been on hold here for a while.
Sure.
All right, how's it been going?
Firstly, thank you so much for your patience. We just had an incredible performance.
You had an incredible what?
Performance from an artist who is in Mexico, so some internet challenges, but we got there. And this is kicking off day 2 in AEST time. Yesterday was just a phenomenal day of such dynamic conversations, from race relations to economics and finance, all through this lens of unity and just this powerful message. I'm so excited that everyone gets to hear from you this morning, because this consistent message was, how do we move towards each other even when we believe different things?
Yes.
How do we expand our understanding of what unity can be, and not need each other to always be on the same page to create unity in what's feeling like quite a segregated world right now? So I'd love you to first just share with everyone your work, the importance of what you feel the importance of unity right now in this global conversation, and then maybe we can move into a bit of a Q&A.
Sure. Well, my sense is that each of us, if we think of ourselves as instruments in an orchestra, and I had the opportunity to hear Mahler's Resurrection Symphony, which has over 100 instruments and a chorus, and each one of them is unique, but joining together, they made this the most amazing transportive experience of sound and presence. And so my sense is that each of us can be, if we're playing our instrument fully, if we're aligned, I think of unity as really being aligned, that what you're expressing is the same as what you're feeling, and they match. And if you're doing that and expressing your unique voice as part of the orchestra, then all together we contribute to making an amazing new sound in the world that everybody can enjoy. So my sense is that I want everybody to be in touch with the unity of giving themselves attention, of giving themselves curious attention for their value, and then being able to give attention, give and receive attention with others, which creates this sense of presence. And out of presence, our differences become something to be appreciated, rather than to be, formed and chopped off and flattened so that we look like everybody else and sound like everybody else. And also, one of the things that my husband Gay said many years ago that I have always really appreciated is that there's not much evolution in beliefs, but there's a lot of evolution that you can get by letting go of beliefs. And so what I come to in the sense of unity is that under the surface, we all have the same feelings. We all breathe. We all have blood flow. We all have processes that we share in common. We all experience loss. We all experience longing, and that we can share our unique responses to this amazing life journey that we're on. And the more that we're grounded in our bodies and in our felt experience, the more present we can be to ourselves and to others. And so our work, which people can find both on the Hendricks Institute, so it's Hendricks with a CKS, HENDRICKS.com, but also Foundation for Conscious Living, we have a whole group of videos that are really about moving from fear to love through presence. So we can talk a lot about it, but if people want to dive deeper, we have a whole bunch of material on our websites that will give people a chance to experience what unity looks like and what unity that appreciates diversity can look like.
We're sharing those links for you now, Katie, and we've shared them with the community after our last conversation as well. So much value in that, and I really love what you're sharing, that when we come back into alignment, unity with all things is just a natural byproduct of that. And what a beautiful thing to understand is the closer we become to ourselves, the closer we then feel to others, and we see beyond those beliefs. So maybe can we explain, because there's a lot, you know, all you need to do is open social media right now to see how many people in the world are triggered and not.
Yes, that's why, indeed. And I think that we all, because of what's been going on recently, that we're more, you know, like more startled and easier to get upset and feel more, you know, around the edges. And so I would say that probably of all of the things that we've developed what I call fear melters would be of great use to people right now, because it's a somatic way, it's a body intelligence way of shifting your state. And regardless of what's going on around you, you can change your state to openness, to be able to give and receive, rather than being in, when you're in fear, everybody else becomes the enemy. And there's this sense of disconnect, and what people call othering, that you're not like me, so I can do anything I want to you. But in a state of presence, we become open to connection. And my sense is that that's what people are really longing for, is connection. So even while I'm talking to you, it's part of why I put this lens on so you could see me. And can you still hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, super. Because what I want to show you is simply easy fear melters. And while you're listening, just go ahead and try these on, because you can change your state in 2 minutes. That's all it takes, is to go from raggedy or triggered to open and available. So most people, they do fight. There's 4 expressions of fear. So they do fight, they do flee, they do freeze, and they do faint. And you can do a combination of those. And so you don't have to match your fear melter to the fear state. So the fear melters are first oozing. And oozing is especially wonderful for fight, because notice if you try this on while you're oozing, like seaweed in water or hot fudge over ice cream, you cannot fight. So in that moment, you just can't fight. And if you're just about, you know, the I'm out of here, flee. If you do sumo, which is legs wide and getting down so that you feel your feet, you feel your legs, you feel your connection to the ground, you're not going anywhere. You're here. So sumo is a great way to plant yourself, especially if you're feeling like you're flying off the planet with all the stuff that's going on right now. And then my personal favorite is freeze. Like, oh my God. And when you're frozen, people will say, just relax, honey, just relax, you're fine. And you kind of want to smack them. But when you're frozen, you can wiggle your fingers and toes. So I want to invite you to go ahead and freeze, because that's been happening to a lot of us recently. And then even when you're frozen, notice, see, you can still wiggle your fingers. And then you can let that wiggling begin to move up and include more of you and more of you. And I like to do it enough so that I can actually hear it in my voice, that my voice starts to wiggle. And that way I know that I'm really getting a good wiggle on. And you can do a little mini wiggle by putting your head forward and doing what I call face flapping. You go, it's a great way of releasing tension, especially when you kind of want to bite somebody's head off. So face flapping, because what often looks like anger is almost always fear. So I like to tell people, when in doubt, do fear melters, because then if you are angry, you can mobilize your anger to move toward what you want. Now, the last one is the most important, which is love scoops, because faint, when people just feel overwhelmed or they feel like they're just dripping and draining away, reach into a pool of love and bring it up, and you can bring it up and splash it over you, and you can bring it up and hug yourself with it. So when you reach, it takes you out of that passive state of the faint, because the faint is the closest thing to just giving up. And so when you reach out, you get engaged again. And then you bring the world in and go, oh, okay. Oh, I can love myself for what I'm feeling right now. I can fill my reservoir of love and give it to myself. And when you do all of those for just 2 minutes, you change your state. And then you're presencing yourself. So, like all of the rough edges as I was feeling, now feel like, although I am going to change, I'm getting light in through the window. So, hold on a second.
But I love the image of like rallies of people fighting each other, just going into fear melters.
I would love that. In fact, that has been my goal, is to have a whole group of people, somebody says fear melters, and everybody's dancing to doing fear melters, because we know that music and movement are our primary community connections, and it has been throughout history. And so when we drop underneath the me, of who's right, we have this shared experience of moving together and connecting that really reminds us that we have a shared human experience.
I love it so much. And so when people are going into that state of judgment, othering, I think that's a really powerful term, othering. I feel like there's a lot of othering going on. Have you seen that there are like key ways that happens, whether that be judgment, blame? Like, how can people start to become aware, more conscious of how they might be othering?
Well, the first thing is just to assume, if you're in fear, you're separated from people, maybe even people that you love. Because when you're in fear, you go into your reptilian brain. You leave your frontal cortex and your mammalian brain, where you can connect with people empathetically, and you go into dinosaur brain. And so it's really smash and grab and kill. And so what I like to do is basically, when in doubt, just add fear melters. There's no way they can hurt you. So what often looks like doubt is a form of fear. Being irritated is a form of fear. Thinking that the other person is wrong comes from blame, is actually from fight. And when people say, for example, fight back, let's all just fight back against that, I've been countering that with, let's engage together. Let's gather together and move in a different direction. But fight back just keeps the fear going. So if you hear yourself saying fight, I feel triggered. You feel, especially up around here, if you're starting to feel what I call grit. So if you notice your own grit, that's a fear signal.
Yeah, right. I think this is such powerful awareness for us to have right now, and even becoming conscious. Are you logging onto social media, for instance, or watching the news and starting to feel these things? Is it putting you in a state that is actually putting you in separation, and needing to feel right? And I feel like if all of us specifically right now can become more conscious of this, like even look to the people to your left and right, your loved ones, your family, and ask the question, do I feel in opposition to you? Or do I only feel close to you because you're agreeing with my position? I think that's another thing. It's like, I'm going to humanize you because you agree with me. You're going to back up my belief systems. So I think that could be a really interesting thing to explore. How, if that is how many people are currently experiencing intimacy, is like, you agree with me, therefore I feel close to you, and then at the minute that they decide to disagree, then you feel a discord.
Right.
How else can we create like an intimacy in our relationships that is more anchored in that shared experience and less about agreements and being right?
Well, one thing for people to recognize is that being right happens here. It happens in your head and in your mouth. And it happens from an intellectual point of view. So it's about content and about me proving that I'm right and that you're wrong. Are you still here? Are we having any more technical difficulties? Let me know if you do.
So it lagged a little bit.
Yeah. So let me just say that over again, and let me know at any time if something drops out, because technical stuff happens. People mistake mind to mind dialogue for connection. That's not connection. That's where we kind of arm wrestle with each other, an intellectual arm wrestle where, well, what about this fact? And you forgot that one. Well, what happened 400 years ago? And what about, and that gets into an adrenaline hit. And it's really important for people to understand that that's the only benefit that you get from blaming and from being right. You get this adrenaline hit, this of being right, but it only lasts for a moment. It has a short half-life, and then it drains away again, and you might actually feel more drained than you did before. So adrenaline, but see, adrenaline is incredibly addictive. It's the most addictive substance on the planet. Scientists haven't been able to create a molecule that's more addictive than adrenaline.
Why is that, Kate? Why is adrenaline so addictive for human beings?
Because it's a very powerful chemical. We use less than a tablespoon of it in a lifetime. So just a few molecules of it sets off this cascade in your body. And I think that much of our planet right now is addicted to adrenaline, because when it drops off, then you get habituated, you see, to that level of adrenaline, and you have to escalate, which is to make a bigger argument, to get more forceful, to get louder, to interrupt, to take your toys and go away. All of those aggressive things that give you then another hit of adrenaline. And what that ultimately leads to is war, because there's no backing off. When people get into that, then they escalate and escalate and escalate until, and this happens in relationships and between countries. So what is really essential for people to realize is that we have a fossil fuel and an adrenaline economy, and those are not sustainable. And adrenaline is even less sustainable than fossil fuels, because it ruins your whole physical system, your ability to connect, your ability to dream up new things, your ability to hear your inner intuition, to be able to relate to others. So we put people on an adrenaline diet. We put them on a blame zone, making a no blame zone in their lives and eliminating blame, because it's the cocaine of relationships. And what substitutes, which will give you a renewable resource, is to tune into your creativity, is to favor your creativity and the creativity of others, and to be asking, like, how can I support you in creating your dreams in the world? What is it that you really want? And how can I support you in moving toward what you really want? What's unique to you? Through appreciating others, we uncover their genius. And so through appreciating you, you begin to then go, oh, right, that is something I do. I thought that was just something that everybody did, but no, maybe this is my instrument that I can play to add to the orchestra. So my sense is that when I tune into, when I move from here to here, that's the big move. So if I'm trying to be right, I'm just connecting through here. And I have friends that I love to debate with, but we know what we're doing. You know, we're like, we have a debate squad, and I'll take one side and they take the other side, and we go at it. But we know that where our real connection is here. So we really encourage people to drop down into actually give yourself attention in your heart. What's going on in that area? And then to literally give attention to the other person's heart, the other person's breath, so that you're connecting to body. One of my teachers many years ago, who taught zero balancing, this very exotic form of body work, he gave an example of how merchants in the old days, they'd get together on their donkeys, and they'd be sitting on their donkeys, and they'd be haggling with each other, the equivalent of our intellectual dispute. But meanwhile, their donkeys were nuzzling. And so he had a whole phrase that he used called donkey, donkey. So what we want to find is human, human, donkey, donkey, and to drop out of this overemphasis that we put on our brains. There's this great quote by the physicist David Bohm, who is a great advocate of wholeness and unity, and just a brilliant fellow. He said, the mind makes up the world, and then says, I didn't do that. So the mind makes up the world and then doesn't take any responsibility for all the havoc of all those different beliefs and all of those different oppositions. Whereas in our hearts and in our bodies, we recognize each other right away. And if we just come to, here I am breathing with you, and I can feel your breath and you can feel my breath. And then that gives us a place of unity that we can build on. You know, I can recognize your feelings. I can let you in to my feelings, what I'm actually experiencing in my whole self, not just here. And that fosters unity. And I can let go of things that are not working when I drop down into my fear zone. And I do fear melters, which then allows me to be much more open to the unknown. Because every time we go through the unknown, we go through this gate of fear. So we're not trying to make fear go away, but really hooking up fear juice and turning it into, turning it into creativity.
I love this so much. So much. I think it's so brilliant and so simple. And I love when really profound things can be made simple and actionable for everyone. You know,
you wouldn't believe how many decades it takes to do that.
No, I have full admiration. I'm appreciating you in that, the mastery that it takes to simplify such, you know, ultimately complex and profound concepts. One thing that I've seen so much in humans, you know, when they come into, say, the spaces that I've facilitated, is there's a recognition when there's enough safety of the fact that they actually haven't been in their hearts and their bodies. And I feel like the absence of awareness is a huge part of that problem. Like, people don't actually, I remember when I went through trauma, and I think this is a really shared experience and story of many people, you know, you go to your head to keep yourself safe because your subconscious is like, don't feel that. I don't want to feel that.
Right. I don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there. I want to protect myself from ever having to. And that's a dangerous place for someone to be, because you're no longer in compassion or presence or empathy.
Well, you're not actually located. And so you're in a kind of a limbo that is not really safe.
Yeah, exactly. For others as well, you know, it's not that human capacity for kinship was our survival once upon a time of like, I'm going to do the right thing by you because my survival depends on that.
Right.
And that's one thing that through this summit, I think has been reiterated so many times. Like, this is our survival as a species. We need to remember and actually come back into our capacity to feel each other and understand that we're not our belief systems. That's just a program that's been.
Yes, that's just something that we learned. It has absolutely, I mean, it's completely arguable, all of our beliefs and how people argue over different beliefs or different, different little percentages of different beliefs and who's right. And wars have been raging about those kinds of things for centuries.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy when you start to really do the work and understand, wow, that's that person, those leaders, it was just a matter of them being so in their heads that they couldn't feel the implications of the decisions they were making that affected so many. So what I really want the audience to be able to gain from this segment of our conversation is a deeper either awareness or inspiration to move more deeply into their hearts and do the work somatically to actually come back into their bodies. And I'm thinking one of the ways, because you're so embodied, that we could do that is for you to explain what it feels like when you're completely in your body.
Well, so one thing that I suggest there are two practices that I think are really, really important. One is to get into the habit of actually shifting your awareness. Because most of us right now, especially with social media, we're just out, and stuff is coming at us. So we think that we're getting nourished, but we're not, because our attention is going out. So the very simple act, you can just do it right now. You can give attention to yourself, like just notice where your breath is moving. It doesn't have to be any particular way. You're just giving your attention to you. And then give attention to something going on around you. Like, I'm just noticing that there's this beautiful outside this window. The light is coming through the leaves out there that are rustling, and it's very pleasant for my eyeballs. So just shift your attention and notice something. It helps if you get curious. So you could add, if you're not feeling curious, you can add a because that shifts you to wonder brain. That opens curiosity. The actual sound. So you cannot blame and criticize when you're humming. So one practice is to shift your attention with a and what that does is kind of it fluffs your energy and opens up space where you feel contracted, and it starts to fill your reservoir. So I'm doing that right now. So I've been practicing this so long that I'm aware of you, and I'm aware of me, and I'm aware of the space around me, and I'm thinking about what I might want to say next, and I'm noticing that the weather is changing, and all of that is going on without interfering with my presence at all. So what the practice of shifting your attention does is shift you from here to whole body awareness. And it refreshes you. And so it breaks up log jams and fatigue. And it's just a great thing to do, especially if you're on a long Zoom meeting, to shift your attention so that you don't get, entranced. And then the experience, then I would suggest to people that you create wonder questions to start your day, or intentions. So one of my intentions, which your question reminded me of, one of my lifetime goals is to be awake and aware in every cell of my body in every moment. And I'm definitely getting there. And so what that means is that for me, isn't it strange that when we talk to people, we usually talking about content. We don't talk about how are you?
Mm.
And if, when someone says fine, I have no idea what that means. But if I'm saying, how are you experiencing yourself right now? What are you most noticing? How is energy moving through you right now? Or, what kinds of feelings are you experiencing? So that gives me, or how are you experiencing this summit? Where are you located in experiencing this? Is very different than, hey, what do you think? What do you think about what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so how I experience flow all through my body,
Mm.
like champagne bubbles. So there's this feeling of aliveness, and it's around a core of space. So
Mm.
in the center of me, I can, when I was learning meditation, they said you cannot stop your thoughts. So don't even try to. And I realized about 10 or 11 years into meditating, wait a minute, I haven't had thoughts now so it is actually possible to stop your thoughts,
Mm.
not by forcing them, but by really
Being.
opening up to the space inside, because you're mostly space. So one practice that people can do is go looking for the space inside, because we usually are looking for what's wrong. So let your attention go to where you're feeling warmth, where you're feeling openness, where you're feeling something wanting to emerge, and let yourself follow that. So impulse becomes available, and then impulse leads to authentic expression, which leads to deeper connection and then more play, where you're not recycling the same thing over and over again. You're adding some new sounds into the orchestra, and actually new melodies and new rhythms, and maybe new ways of even moving the whole orchestra to
Mm.
another place. And all of that comes by dropping into the wholeness of yourself, rather than simply locating yourself in your head, which I would say is probably the biggest problem of the last 400 years, is that we think that our head is more important than the rest of us.
Mm. So good. I'd love to anchor just a point in relation
Sure.
to community and in what you're sharing, especially as the viewers, have journeyed through the past day and a half. And I feel what you just spoke to is such a beautifully powerful somatic explanation of how we can coexist in unity when our awareness is actually starting to open up around us, and we are simultaneously existing. For me, the ocean that's in front of me, the wind, my neighbors, everyone else on the live stream, my team that are messaging me. When I can exist in all of that simultaneously and still be connected to myself, then unity is something that is just always available to us. It's not something
Yes.
we have to fight for, strive for. It just simply is. And I hope that everyone watching and listening can really allow that to land, that we are already in unity. We just need to make ourselves available to that experience.
The actual experience of it, because the idea about it isn't nearly as delicious as the experience. And I was just thinking, Nick, as you were saying that the goal of all of our work has been to reveal essence.
Mm.
And essence, I think of as, and I experience as, who I am at my core. That if I let go of all of my roles, like being a teacher and being a parent, and there's several roles, I would still recognize myself. But if I let go of my playful love, I would no longer recognize myself.
Mm.
So each of us have, at the core, I think essence is all the same, just as light is the same. But when you send it through a prism, you get a rainbow of colors. And so each of us is a prism for love. And the way that love moves through us is unique. And we can let ourselves express, here's this form of love, here's this form of essence. And as I am at home in my essence, then I become like a tuning fork for others to find their essence in my presence. And then they can share essence, and then they become a tuning fork and a sounding for essence and all of the unique expressions of essence, but the celebration that at the core we're all the same.
Yes, Katie. Yes. How can we summarize this for everyone watching into like 2 or 3 points for them to really action? Because this is really about, this whole 3 days is about dropping into the body and actually starting to live unification and harmony. And then we
So the
realize
first thing I would say is just take a moment and just notice, okay, you're not going to lose this. You're not going to lose all those thoughts. They're going to be there. Just one thing is very effective is drop the words out. Just regularly drop the words out. Just go to blah, 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 and sound and movement then is the quickest way to drop into your body. And then fear melters will allow you to shift that fear energy into juice, creative juice. And then shifting your attention with a will help fill your reservoir with others and yourself and refresh you. And then I would say, you know, what Gay would say also is to love yourself as much as you can from wherever you are. Thaddeus Golas first said this many years ago in The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment. But the actual experience of love is being in the same space with. So if you're willing to be in the same space with yourself, that's where love and unity comes from. And if you're willing to be in the same space with someone else, doesn't matter what they're thinking. It matters that you're willing to be with them. And that's where we start weaving love, you know, rather than disconnection.
I'm just feeling this so deeply, so deeply, just how beautiful love is, you know, the power to be with each other in our experience, no matter what that is. And I want to add to that when we do have the capacity and we practice and commit to developing the capacity to love each other in those ways, I've seen it happen time and time again. The pain and the suffering and the divisions actually just melt away, because
They
all
totally melt away. I've seen that thousands of times. It's always inspiring though, because those are just forms of fear, in my opinion. Those are the armor that we put on to keep ourselves safe. But when we realize that I am safe because there isn't anything else but the experience of love, and I feel it, even for just a second, I can start tuning to that. So no matter what my experiences in the past have been, I can create a new pathway forward by coming home to presence over and over again.
Boom. Thank you so much, Katie. Yeah, you dropped the mic. Yeah, that was beautiful and so important right now. And I know everyone's already sharing on the stream that they're just completely eating all of that up. And
oh, good. I'm so glad. Yeah, and I'm particularly loving. You have a chair behind you, don't you? Sort of a woven little chair.
Pretty beautiful.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's yeah. See, I love our lives can become works of art, and we can become living works of art. And I consider all of my friends and everyone I come in contact with is an ongoing, an evolving work of art. And that's what I would like to have people hold each other as.
Amen. We're all working at our own masterpieces. that is this beautiful miracle of life. So appreciative. We're going to share all of your links and where people can access your content. Please, I can't recommend it enough. Go and watch some of Katie and Gay's videos, learn this work. If you want a more unified world, there's only so far we can take thought form and theories of what that looks like, come into the body, live the unity, feel the unity. Yeah, just thank you for being who you are, Katie.
Thank you. And thank you. I love the playful, easy way that you invite people into this space. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's my pleasure. So much love to you.
All righty. Have fun.
Of course, always.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.